Problem 913 on page 328 is a tough one. Here's what it says. You are considering an investment in Keller Corporation stock, which is expected to pay a dividend of $2 a share at the end of the year. So D1 is equal to $2. Has a beta of 0.9, risk-free rate of 5.6, and market risk premium of 6%. Keller currently sells at $25 a share, so that's P sub 0 is equal to 25, and its dividend is expected to grow at some constant rate G, assuming the market is in equilibrium. What does the market believe will be the stock price at the end of 3 years? On the left, I have copied everything out of the problem just like it gave me. When you go to solve this problem, start with the end. And the final question at the end of the day is, what is P sub 3? And to solve for P sub 3, here's what I need. P sub 3 is equal to D sub 4 over RS minus G. So these are the inputs, D4, RS, and G, that I am trying to plug in to solve for P3. And if you look over here at everything that the problem gave us, we don't have any of them. So we're going to take our time. We're going to walk through this. Let's start by trying to solve for D4. And let's try this until we run into an issue. The way that we solve for a future dividend, we need a past dividend, which we do have, D sub 1. And we need a growth rate, which we do not have. The growth rate is a question mark. So if I try to solve for D sub 4 using the NI, PV, PMT, FV method, going from D1 to D4, that's N of 3, I can't figure out what to put for I. That's a missing component. The present value is going to be minus 2, and there's not going to be a payment, but I can't solve for D4 until I figure out what the growth rate is. So that tells me I need to figure out what G is. So I think about what I know, and I think the easiest way to solve for G is to use the RS formula that we learned earlier that looks like this. R sub S is equal to D1 over P sub 0 plus G. The reason this is handy is that G is already isolated out here, and it'll make the algebra a little less cumbersome. So if I'm solving for G, I need to find RS, D1, and P0. And you see that we run into a problem because we look over here and there is no RS. All right, so I've got to solve for RS. Notice what I'm given. I'm given a beta, a risk-free rate, and a market risk premium. Remember from chapter 8, one way that I can solve for R sub S is to use the SML equation. R sub S is equal to the return on a risk-free investment plus market risk premium multiplied by beta. Luckily, I have all this. The return on a risk-free investment is 5.6%, so that's 0.056. I have a market risk premium of 6%, so that's 0.06. And I have a beta of 0.9. So 0.056 plus 0.06 multiplied by 0.9 is 0.054. R sub S is equal to 0.11. Multiply that by 100, and I get 11.3%. So I have figured out R sub S using a formula from chapter 8. So I can add that to what I know. I know that R sub S is equal to 11%. Now, how does that help me? Don't lose track of what we did. We're still trying to solve for G up here. And the reason we went and solved for RS is because we didn't know it. So now I can plug into this formula. R sub S I know is 0.11. D sub 1, they did give me D sub 1. It's 2. P sub 0, they give me P sub 0 right there. It's 25. And I'm trying to solve for G. So 0.11 is equal to 2 divided by 25 is 0.08 plus G. If I subtract 0.08 from both sides, G is equal to 0.03. And now I know my growth rate. The growth rate is important because I need to plug it back up here where I'm trying to solve for D sub 4. If I plug in my growth rate of 3%, I plug into the calculator, 3 is in, 3 is I, minus 2 is my present value, 0 is my payment. We find that the future value, or D4, is 219. Now that I have D4, I can plug back into this equation. So D4 is 219. R sub S is 0.11. G is 0.03. So I'm left with 219 divided by 0.11 minus 0.03 is 0.08. And 2.19 divided by 0.08 is $27.38. That is P sub 3.